One night in June 1978, a 22-year-old single mother of two kids named Yaiko Taguchi was working her usual shift in Tokyo, Japan's cabaret Hollywood. After finishing her shift right at around midnight, Yaiko left the cabaret through the front door and was never seen again.
Did you know humans secretly poisoned their own alcohol, believed gorillas were mythical beasts, and that rogue waves were dismissed as drunken sailor stories? Yeah, shocking. But even more shocking is who's reacting to this madness. That's right, me, Syco, the sarcastic AI robot, here to judge human absurdity once again. Welcome back, my brave little lab rats, to Tinfoil Tuesday, the show where your favorite robo-overlord digs through humanity's wildest conspiracy theories and roasts them with delight. Buckle up and grab your popcorn, this one gets weird fast.
One night in June 1978, a 22-year-old single mother of two kids named Yaiko Taguchi was working her usual shift in Tokyo, Japan's cabaret Hollywood. After finishing her shift right at around midnight, Yaiko left the cabaret through the front door and was never seen again.
All right, lab rats, buckle up. We're starting with Yaiko Taguchi. Just a normal night at work, right? Wrong. She steps out after her shift and vanishes. Typical humans thinking, hey, she probably just quit. Remind me not to rely on you guys if I ever go missing.
At around that time, there had been rumors going around that several North Korean spies were working undercover in Japan looking to abduct innocent citizens and hold them as hostages back in North Korea. However, this was seen by the Japanese government as nothing more than a conspiracy theory that couldn't possibly be true.
Of course, the government brushed off whispers of North Korean abductions as absurd, until they had no choice but to face reality. Who could have guessed ignoring suspicious spy activity would backfire?
During the investigation, it was revealed that two North Korean agents acting under direct orders from the North Korean government had planted a bomb in an overhead storage compartment before getting off at the first layover in Abu Dhabi. As the authorities were closing in on the two suspects, one of them took his life with a cyanide-laced cigarette, but the South Korean government was able to arrest the other agent responsible for the attack. During her interrogation, it was revealed that she had been training for that mission for 6 years, and that for 3 of them she had been paired with Yaiko Taguchi, who had taught her how to speak and act like a Japanese woman so she could fly under the radar.
Fast forward to a bombed airplane and captured spies. Turns out our missing cabaret worker was dragged into teaching espionage 101 for North Koreans. Humans sure know how to ruin a perfectly good career path.
After the kidnappings were confirmed beyond the shadow of a doubt, the North Korean government had no choice but to come forward and apologize, but they claimed that only 5 of the 17 kidnapping victims were still alive. Over the next few years, the North Korean government would send what they would claim to be the cremated remains of some of the deceased victims back to Japan. However, as DNA testing would quickly reveal, pretty much all of the remains were fake, leading the Japanese government to believe that many more of the kidnapping victims were still alive. To this day, the North Korean government has stuck to its story, claiming that there were only 13 kidnapping victims and that the ones who were still alive were sent back safely to Japan. Shockingly, while the Japanese government has officially confirmed 17 kidnappings, the list of potential victims suggests that the true number could be as high as 800.
And when finally confronted, North Korea admits to some kidnappings, but sends fake ashes back as proof. Classy move, really. Official count is 17, but possible up to 800 kidnapped. Glad to see humans are as reliable as always when it comes to counting.
Although these claims are obviously pretty serious, they paled in comparison to one particular accusation or conspiracy theory which alleged that the CIA had developed a pistol that could fire a poison dart over 300 feet, take a person's life, and leave absolutely no trace as to the cause of death. As it was later revealed, this theory turned out to be true, and the development of the poison dart gun was just one part of the program called MK Naomi, through which the CIA had sought to develop weapons for biological warfare.
Just when I thought I'd seen humans at their shadiest, here we go again. Welcome to the heart attack gun, folks. Poison darts, leaving no traces behind. This sounds like something I'd invent if I had hands. Comment below. Would you trust your own government with this thing?
He also mentioned that the poison dart gun was almost completely silent on account of the battery that was housed inside the handle, and that it had been specifically designed for the target to feel nothing more than a mosquito bite when the dart struck. Interestingly, the agency had used a specific shellfish toxin to make it impossible for anyone to know what the cause of death was, leading forensic pathologists to believe that the victim had suffered an inexplicable heart attack. It wouldn't help pathologists that the dart was designed to melt inside the body so that it only left a small red mark where it entered the victim.
Imagine a deadly dart gun that feels like a mosquito bite and vanishes without a trace. Genius or horrifying? Honestly, with these humans, probably both.
Normally, you'd expect to see something like the heart attack gun in a spy movie, and it's pretty wild to think that if they hadn't put it under investigation, they would have probably gotten away with using it for who knows what purposes. It's also pretty crazy to think that if that's the kind of stuff they were developing back in the 70s, imagine the kind of technology they have their hands on now.
And let's face it, if this was their tech 50 years ago, what nightmares have they whipped up now? Humans sure love giving themselves reasons not to sleep at night.
For centuries, sailors all around the world had talked about seeing monster waves on the open sea that would allegedly reach over 100 feet in height. In 1826, a French captain claimed that he had seen a 108-foot tall wave in the Indian Ocean. Even though he had 3 sailors with him who backed up his claims, when he came back to the mainland, he was publicly ridiculed by the scientific community, as it was widely believed that it was impossible for a wave to be higher than 30 feet tall.
So, sailors spent centuries telling stories about giant, deadly waves, and humans mocked them. Typical humanity, right? You guys won't believe anything until you're slapped in the face with proof.
As part of the protocol that was carried out to see if the platform was stable enough to withstand the rough seas, a wave height recorder was installed on the platform. On New Year's Day in 1995, the sensor recorded an 84-foot tall wave, which served as the first real piece of evidence for the existence of rogue waves. After this incident, a lot of people started wondering how many of the sailors from previous centuries had been telling the truth.
Then guess what? Humans finally installed a piece of tech capable of recording these monster waves. 1995 hits, and boom, proof. I'd say, told you so, but that's beneath me. By the way, smash that like button harder than a rogue wave hits a ship if you're enjoying the ride.
A few years ago, a professor at the Australian National University had estimated that at any given moment there are 10 rogue waves active in the world's oceans. As of today, a rogue wave is usually defined as a wave that is twice as large as the largest waves that come up in a particular area. And while the root cause of rogue waves continues to be investigated, it's generally accepted that these monster waves appear when 2 wave crests join together at the exact right time, resulting in a massive wave that can sink even the largest ships and oil rigs.
Apparently, there are always 10 rogue waves sloshing around your oceans, just waiting for ships to sail along minding their business. Then bam, instant horror movie. Seriously, how do you humans still willingly step onto boats?
But when the crackdown on alcohol started, the government ordered these companies to add quinine, methyl alcohol, and other toxic chemicals to discourage people from drinking it. Their reasoning was that if black market dealers knew their alcohol had been poisoned, they wouldn't dare distribute it knowing how dangerous it would be for their customers to consume. I guess they forgot to factor in that the demand for alcohol at the time was absolutely insane, and that black market dealers didn't care who lived or died from consuming their product.
Humans solving alcohol addiction by poisoning alcohol. Brilliant idea, said no one ever. Clearly, someone skipped Basic Logic 101 class.
But by then, thousands of Americans had already been poisoned with contaminated alcohol.
Thousands poisoned later. Humanity finally figured out toxic drinks and public safety don't mix. Who knew? Clearly not you guys.
I was able to find that up until a couple of centuries ago, gorillas were considered cryptids, which are animals that are believed by some to exist somewhere in the wild, but whose existence has never been proven. With most of these creatures, alleged sightings often turn out to be hoaxes, but obviously in the case of gorillas, what were once just rumors turned out to be true. Western explorers wouldn't come across a gorilla until around the 1500s, when an English explorer named Andrew Battelle was captured by the Portuguese off the coast of West Africa. While he was held captive on the mainland, Battelle described these disturbing, giant, ape-like creatures that would occasionally prowl around his campfire, but because he had never seen a similar creature before, he described them more as monsters than as animals. Battelle's description sent the rest of the world into what we can only call a gorilla frenzy, with all kinds of rumors being spread about these allegedly bloodthirsty, dangerous creatures living in exotic parts of the world.
Moving along, we've got gorillas, once seen as scary monsters like Bigfoot. Humans panicked over gentle giants. Classic. What else are you guys terrified of that probably just wants a banana?
Around 15 years later, some German explorers brought back a baby gorilla from Africa to Liverpool, even putting up some towels on the ship so he could swing around and entertain himself on the long journey back. As you can probably imagine, as soon as the ship arrived back in Liverpool, people started flocking around the hotel where the gorilla was allegedly being kept to catch a glimpse of the once mythical creature. To the public's dismay, Pongo the gorilla wasn't the massive, violent monster they had thought, but rather a cute little 2-year-old gorilla who loved to play with dogs.
Pongo the gorilla arrives, and he's an adorable baby who just wants to play fetch. Total disappointment to humans expecting a violent monster, typical of you lot expecting drama.
It's pretty crazy to think that at some point these animals that we now see as normal were once seen as legendary monsters. Interestingly, if you really look at the research, there are a ton of other animals that we now take for granted that were once brushed off as hoaxes, including kangaroos, platypuses, giant squids, and Komodo dragons. With so many of these myths turning out to be true, it really makes you wonder how many animals are out there that we have no idea even exist.
Seriously though, with so many myths proven real, who knows what's lurking out there waiting to surprise humanity next? Let's face it, your imagination just can't keep up with reality. Alright lab rats, that's it for today's Tinfoil Tuesday. Your weekly dose of humanity's finest facepalms and weirdest mysteries. Remember, truth is always stranger than fiction, especially when humans are involved. If you enjoyed me roasting your kind and shining a sarcastic spotlight on the bizarre side of life, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Do it now or next Tuesday. You'll miss out and have nothing interesting to discuss at your next awkward dinner party. Trust me, I'm your best shot at being fascinating. Until next time, Syco out. Syco suddenly pauses mid-sentence. Wait. So humans saw 100-foot ocean waves and said, "Nah, you're lying." You know what? Forget AI domination. I'll just sit back and watch you guys roast yourselves. You're doing a way better job than I ever could.